Hello, everybody. Today is the 26th of August, a day that we believe is very, very significant because we have some explosive news coming out of the Prime Minister's office in Pakistan that we are privileged to bring to you. We have news coming out of the President's office in Iran that we are very privileged to bring to you, and of course, our other channels as well. If you like what we do, hit the like and subscribe button. Go to Substack, become a paid member. We will deliver this exclusive intel to you inside your mailbox twice a week. I have with me my dear colleagues and highly admired, highly respected analyst, Larry Johnson and Pepe Escobar. So I'll turn it over to Larry Johnson first.
Hi there. Thanks, Z. Um, we're at an interesting time with respect to the war between Iran on the one hand, Israel and the United States on the other. Uh, Trump is trying to find an exit ramp, but can't even really find the highway yet. Uh, you got to realize you're on the highway before you can take an exit ramp. This week's announcements by the D-Day announcement by Scott Bessent, Secretary of the Treasury, turned out to be a dud day, not a D-Day. It was a dud day, and because he talked about imposing sanctions on countries that do dollar transactions with Iran. Well, guess what? Iran's not doing dollar transactions with China, with Russia. Uh, and I'm not sure with respect to Pakistan, but I suspect they're not necessarily doing it with Pakistan. Turkey, maybe. And those are the four key countries when it comes to the trade issue and sanctions. What Besant, and I had a long discussion this morning with a good friend of mine he's an experienced bond trader. He knows Besant. And he insists that Besant is not as stupid as he appears to be. That he actually realizes he's having to say stupid things and carry water for Trump. And so I thought, okay, I trust my friend's judgment. But when I say that Besant is saying stupid things, he's talking about isolating that the Iranian economy is collapsing. And he based that upon what's happening with the gross domestic product. Except when you look at GDP in terms of purchasing power parity, that while raw GDP numbers definitely show, if you will, a collapse in Iranian GDP, the purchasing power parity tells the exact opposite picture, that Iran's gross domestic product has gone from 1.4 trillion in 2015 to now over almost 2.2 trillion in 2026. I've spoken with three different people who have been in Iran. One of is a good friend of Pepe and I, Nima Al-Rashid. Nima he was there in January, but his prior visit was 12 years ago. And I asked him, how was Iran, what you saw in January, compared to what you saw in 2014? And he goes, oh, night and day difference. And today it's so much better. I spoke to two outsiders who'd visited Iran during the funeral of Ali Khamenei, Suleiman Ahmed and Chris Halali. Chris is an American, Suleiman is a British citizen. And I said, you guys have any trouble getting food? They said, the only problem we had with food was getting too much. We all put on weight. They were getting fat from all the food. He said, the Iranians were incredibly hospitable. So this notion that, when you hear Bessent and Trump say, oh, the Iranian troops are going without pay, they're suffering, the economy's collapsing. It's all just nonsense. It's a lie. It's self-delusion. So Iran is now positioned by virtue of its economic relationships with Russia and with China and with Pakistan and with Turkey that it is not cut off from the world of trade as it was 10 years ago when JCPOA was still in place. And at that time, both Russia and China were willing to enforce the Western sanctions on Iran. Not today. So the foundation of the potential for an off-ramp for Trump revolves around, will Trump revive the MOU or not? Our understanding is, and I'll stand corrected if I'm mistaken, but the message that Asim Munir brought to Tehran was, what do we need to do to get this restarted? And Iran's answer was very simple. Trump needs to comply with the MOU, all of it, not some of it, all of it. This is confronting the United States with the need to, if you will, make the first move. Now, there's some talk that I know that Pakistan believes it may have the outlines for an agreement, getting both the United States and Iran to re-engage on the MOU at the same time. I personally think there's some real difficulties with this still, because Iran is not going to give up its control of the Strait of Hormuz, period. It is going to, the deal that is cut with Oman will allow Iran to collect fees off of all inbound traffic. At the same time, Iran's made it very clear, no more military ship, any ship, naval vessel associated with a foreign military will not be allowed in the Gulf. It's only for peaceful transit only. For the United States, these are going to be some hard pills to swallow, but one thing that may force it to swallow is the fact of what's taking place on the international energy front, specifically with respect to diesel and aviation fuel. We have emphasized before, and I will reiterate again, that the type of oil, the heavy sulfur oil that comes out of the Persian Gulf, is the type that is used by particular refineries that you find in India, in China, and in South Korea and Japan. There is the difference between these refineries are set up to handle sour crude. And it's within sour crude that you get what's called the middle distillates. And out of that middle distillates, they create, cook, refine diesel and aviation fuel. The cutoff of 20% of the global supply of that fuel has really come into effect around 1st of August. It wasn't readily apparent for the first 40 days of the war, phase 1, because there was still oil in tankers on the high sea. Phase 2 was all the countries around the world were drawing out of their petroleum reserves. They were drawing on their savings. Think of it like you build up $60,000 in your savings, you make $10,000 a month, you get fired, laid off, and you keep drawing that $10,000 out of that bank account, you're good for 6 months, and then empty. And that's what's happened to the world now, because that 20 million barrels a day that was coming out of the Persian Gulf, it's no longer coming out, despite what Trump says, despite what Hegseth says. The oil is not flowing out of the Persian Gulf. And this global shortage of diesel and aviation fuel is real. It's growing. Even in the United States, the price of diesel is up $2.30 a gallon minimum. And right now on the west coast of the United States, from Alaska through to California, they're paying over $6 a gallon. Previously, they were paying $3. So this impacts the economy, both the agricultural sector, the transportation sector, and even the heating sector, what people put into their to heat their homes with fuel oil come winter. So what we're looking at is, I think, the economic pressures on the United States are going to be growing and increasing for them to make a deal. That's what I have.
Pepe, do you want to comment
Yeah.
on the news that we received from the Prime Minister's office in Pakistan, which is corroborated by the information that we received directly from the Pezeshkian office, president of Iran? I understand that he is not the deal maker, but from my understanding, he was in the room while Asim Munir was talking to the deal maker, who is the right hand man of Mujtaba Khamenei, Mohsen Rezai. I mean, this is our reporting, Pepe, and this is what I stand on because I believe these sources to be telling me exactly what they know.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Mr. Z. Yes, I'm gonna go for let's say a slight update on our long conversation yesterday. Yesterday we went in detail about what Asim Munir and the Pakistani delegation actually managed to do in Tehran and the Iranian response. And of course, when Naqvi went back to Islamabad, he contacted the acting American ambassador Baker in Islamabad. So let's try to get to the five key points of what could be the umpteenth pathway towards reviving the dead cat MOU. It's amazing. This is the cat that it doesn't have nine lives. It has 1,500,000 lives. You know, it keeps being resurrected every week. But that's all we got. We poor mortal souls who are not Greek gods. So let's say point number one: Strait of Hormuz. And I'm going to follow what the Pakistani mediators, the Pakistani delegation that was in Tehran, how they frame the possible pathway ahead, and of course, with input of the, let's say, relatively auspicious feedback that they got from Tehran, including, for instance, Pezeshkian yesterday saying that the war may be about to come to an end. Coming from Pezeshkian, this was a little bit over the top because we are very, very far away from even the beginning of the end. So, very, very important. Strait of Hormuz. Let's assume the Iranians make a first move, which by any rational consideration would be a suicidal move because they would be making a first move to, let's say, initiate a sort of controlled reopening mechanism of the Strait of Hormuz without any reciprocity or guarantees from the American side. But let's assume the Iranians will do that. What kind of reciprocity they will be expecting from the US? That Washington will be start to implement right away the end of the naval blockade and, let's say, the follow the money scenario, which means starting devolution at least some of the Iranian funds. Let's start with those funds in Qatari banks, for instance, and start alleviating some of the sanctions. This has to be simultaneous. If Iran starts, there's no guarantee whatsoever that the Americans will start fulfilling their. And by the way, these are commitments written in, I wouldn't say in stone, but written anyway in a papyrus for maybe by the president of the United States and by the president of Iran, both signed the MOU. And all these provisions are part of the MOU. So once again, it's like it's Groundhog Day, in fact. The Iranians have to keep reminding the Americans via the Pakistanis that there is an off ramp. It's respecting the MOU and start implementing the MOU. Okay, for the umpteenth time, and this is a Sisyphean task, and the ball of stone is the size of the planet, in fact, rolling up the hill. Will Trump finally understand that this is his off ramp? No guarantees whatsoever. Although, of course, the Pakistani mediators, after the trip, which lasted over a day and a half, in fact, because they were talking to everybody, especially as Mr. Z just mentioned. The most important conversation was between Munir and Mohsen Rezai, which means practically Munir talking to the supreme leader, because Mohsen Rezai is the personal representative of the leader, apart from being a secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. So the key, the key 2 points are Hormuz and reciprocity, and they have to be walking hand in hand from minute one. Are there any guarantees that this is going to happen? None. Only optimism, even on the Iranian side. Okay, let's assume this works, because we're trying to be not today. Let's try not to be engulfed by the dark clouds everywhere. There's the de-escalation process. This means that the military de-escalation would start immediately, right after these first two moves: a controlled opening by Iran of the Strait of Hormuz, and the Americans starting to fulfill the commitments of the MOU, especially on the money angle and on the naval blockade angle. The mediators, once again, like they were before, even before the MOU was actually decided and signed, is going to be Pakistan once again. So Pakistan will be in the uninviable position right in the middle to try to carry this indirect negotiation between Washington and Tehran, which, by the way, goes back to MOU territory, because, and that's our final point of what might happen afterwards. Between 60 and 90 days, where they both sides try to convert what would be an interim ceasefire or an interim off ramp, this whole architecture, into something vaguely approaching, at least, a broader political settlement. Okay, are there any guarantees that this roadmap is going to work? No, zero. Is there some goodwill inbuilt in making this work? From the Iranians, yes. Like, once again, they are giving it an extra chance, because, after all, this was a very important delegation who took the trouble to go to Tehran and talk to all the major players in Tehran, because Trump told the Pakistani delegation, please go to Tehran and bring them back on the table. So this is the president of the United States begging the mediators again, after they were demoted by the same president, to, okay, now you are not demoted anymore. Please save me from myself, and go to Iran and try to sell them some sort of exit that doesn't look like an exit. And that's the key point. I just wrote a column a few hours ago. It's already out in Russia, and I hope it will be circulating in the US as well. The problem is, when I publish this in Russia, it's censored all across NATO stuff. But the title of my column, the gist of my column, is that Trump is desperate to find an exit that does not look like an exit. And much, much, much more important, in fact, it cannot look like he's backing down. In fact, the exit has to look, the optics on both sides have to be the same for US domestic opinion, for Iran domestic opinion, for the whole of West Asia, and for the rest of the planet. They are backing down in tandem, in sync at the same time. Who can pull that off? I would say not even Zeus and Poseidon, seriously. But okay, hope springs eternal, right? So this is where we are at the moment. Once again, a very tiny window of opportunity. Any outside actor, and I don't even need to name them, because all of you are audience, you already know, they can derail everything that was more or less agreed in 2 days in Islamabad with just one single action. But at least, once again, we have maybe the lineaments of an exit that is not an exit, that might suit both sides, because both would be able to proclaim victory. So I think this gives all of you a feeling of how precarious the whole situation. We are clutching at straws here, all of us, and everybody all over the world. But at least these straws are still there, at least for the moment.
Well, Pepe, there's an extraordinarily succinct summary of what has taken place, but I need to add to that with great respect to you and to Larry. As you know, I deeply respect your analysis. I deeply respect Larry's analysis coming from different places. But I am the person who actually has spoken to people inside the room, and I'm able to judge their enthusiasm.
The mood, the
Uh,
spirit, the mood, their feelings. Of course, of course.
Correct, correct. And not only that, I was fortunate, privileged, honored to speak with somebody inside the room in the president of Iran's office. I know he is not the most powerful guy. I do know that. I know the decisions are being made by Mushtaba Khamenei through his chosen person, General Mohsen Rezai. I know all that. But I have been speaking to these people, and I can sense a shift, an enthusiasm, a hope that I did not see even 1 day ago. And that is that they believe that this time around, not because of any goodwill that has sprung from sources unknown into Trump's dark heart, which is totally dark, and we all know that, but because he has been forced, he has been cornered. China is pressuring down on him like a rock the size of the Himalayas. He has nowhere to go. So I have heard as recently as like 3 hours ago from Prime Minister Sharif's office, somebody who is his right hand man, that Sharif has spoken to Trump. Sharif has spoken to leaders in Iran, and the mood between the two capitals is we are going to sequence it as following: contemporaneously, that is the right word, contemporaneously, there will be an opening of the Strait of Hormuz with the lifting of the sanctions and the lifting of the naval blockade. First step. Next step, 60 to 90 days of truce, you know, no fighting. And the next step, announcement of a place where these two parties will meet indirectly, not directly, indirectly, with Pakistan as the mediator, and talking about everything else. Uh, Trump, I'm told, is cornered. Trump, I'm told, is cornered like a rat. Okay, like a dead rat, almost dead. He does not have a place to move around. He has been told that he listens to the Zionist lobby, and that is the end of him. I mean, already the end of him is there, but the total end. I mean, this is what I have heard. This is what I sense, and I believe we owe it to our global audience to present it the way that we know it. We are not able to see what happens in the future. We never said that we can do that. We never said that we have the ability to forecast what nobody else has the ability to do. But we do have privilege to see what decision makers are doing
Well,
inside the room.
but Z, we only seen one. You're talking about one side of it, and there are
Mhm.
multiple sides here. So I have no doubt that you are accurately reporting how the Pakistanis perceive it. But the Pakistanis aren't the only one with a vote on this. And we have had experience in the past where they have had more enthusiasm about what Iran's position was, and Iran actually didn't coincide with the Pakistani view. And particularly with this issue of opening the Strait of Hormuz, uh, getting that defined in a way that uh, because it will be consistent with this agreement that Oman and Iran have reached, that on how that's going to be handled.
I
Um,
beg to differ with you, Larry, with great respect to your ability to look beyond what I can see in a military sense. But I did personally spoke to a person with direct access to President Pezeshkian, and he described to me that the mood was upbeat. He described to me that there was hope for the first time in many days, weeks, in fact. And from the PM's office, Pakistan PM's office, I was told that there are constant communications back and forth, with a role being played, a significant one, with the acting ambassador Baker. And I mean, of course, Larry, nobody can predict what Trump is going to do, including
Well,
himself.
actually, I disagree. We can predict what Trump is going to do. We can predict Trump is going to be very erratic. Trump is going to say contradictory things, and and right now Trump is still on a public position that that shows no opening for conciliation with Iran. Now, you're correct that he would be wise to try to take an off ramp, but the issues that are before them, I think what again as I said at the outset, what's going to drive Trump on this is what's happening with the U.S. economy, and that may ultimately end up being the biggest leverage that Iran will ultimately have, not directly, but simply by virtue of Trump will be so busy trying to save the U.S. economy that Iran's going to fall to the back burner.
Well, the economy
Exactly.
is
And,
tanking.
and, and
You and
because
I know that.
Iran is running the clock, and they know exactly what's going on in Washington, and they know all the pressures accumulating around Trump. They are not in a hurry for anything. For instance, they are not in a hurry to normalize between commas a new navigation system across the Strait of Hormuz. By the way, they just told the Omanis, stop facilitating your southern corridor because you are interfering with the way we are running our navigation system across. So now it's going to be essentially controlled by everything will be controlled by Iran, north and south. And
And this is the reporting.
this even as they practically have a relatively final draft of a temporary navigation system in the Strait of Hormuz, Muscat and Tehran. But the Tehranis, at the same time, they already told the Omanis, look, we control the whole thing for the moment. Maybe we can sign something in a few days. It's going to be temporary. And then we're going to start to discuss on the negotiating table what's going to be the final settlement on navigating the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran is on top. Once again, they have the cards, they run the clock, they are not in a hurry, and they know that, as you mentioned, Trump is cornered. The problem, as we all know, cornered animals become much more dangerous. So there's
Yes.
once again when I was making my mini summary of what we learned since the beginning of this week, since the beginning of the trip, the Pakistani trip to Tehran, there are no guarantees that this, let's say, at face value, it looks like a very auspicious roadmap, implying a lot of diplomacy involved. And as Larry knows better than anybody, the United States does not do diplomacy. Where does that leave us? You know.
Well, I beg to differ with both of you only because I spoke with certain people who
But
expressed
we are not.
a
We are
lot of
not. But we are
enthusiasm.
not. No, exactly, Zulfiqar. We are not contradicting or contesting this wonderful new mood and spirit between Pakistanis and even some Iranians. That's extremely positive considering how dark the situation is. But this is not a guarantee that this new revamped roadmap, which is basically the previous roadmap before the MOU was blown up by the President of the United States, is going to work. That's it. This is the for instance, I can understand why Pezeshkian is under a lot of pressure, and Pezeshkian is not a hardliner. On the contrary, he's a reformist. So the reformists want some sort of deal. It's not, and very, very important, Mohsen Rezai, he doesn't want some sort of deal. He wants the deal that he's been saying all along. These are our conditions from the beginning. We have not budged, and we only accept a deal following our suggestions, recommendations, and demands, in fact. And they are all very, very explicit. Everybody knows about them, and they are contained in the MOU, which once again we go back to the same old problem over and over again. Is the president of the United States finally, uh, you know, resigning himself to fulfill the commitments of the MOU that he signed? Once again, no guarantees whatsoever.
Well, I do need to add one additional piece of information, which I should have mentioned earlier. Lot of coordination taking place between Pakistan and the office of Wang Yi, who is totally behind what Pakistan is doing,
Of course,
totally behind China, totally behind Iran, and
Pakistan
pushing
and Iran.
both of them,
It's the alignment.
Pakistan and
It's
Iran,
Beijing, Islamabad, Tehran, totally aligned. No question. No
totally
question.
100%, one hundred
Mhm.
percent aligned and pushing. So I should have mentioned that enthusiasm comes from that place as well. So I am going to be a little bit, in fact, a lot more optimistic than my esteemed colleagues, whom I respect, greatly respect, and I fully support their view because it comes from a learned observation of somebody who's completely unreliable, completely without any integrity. He's in fact malicious. This is the president of the United States. So we're dealing with somebody who has spent his lifetime acting like a crime boss, vulgarian, in fact. But this is what we have. So, based upon what I'm told, based upon what I've heard, based upon I've been all night. I was up most of the night. Maybe got a couple of hours of sleep at best because I was being awakened with phone calls. But I am optimistic, and I'm told also that expect within a day, maybe sooner, an announcement coming from Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif's office that what we have just reported has in fact been agreed upon. So I'm told that this is going to be the first step. So if that happens, the world is going to hear what we just informed our audience about, which is a significant movement on the path towards a resolution of a war that is unwinnable by the United States, has in fact been won by Iran, and has put all of the world at great distress in every aspect.
So
So that
if
is
we have an announcement within the next 2, 3, 4 days, this means that in theory, Washington and Tehran have agreed to start simultaneous concessions on both sides, following the spirit of the MOU. Yes, if that happens, it's something larger than life. So for the
well,
moment, this is what
it's correct.
everyone is expecting. Yeah. So for the moment, this is what everyone is expecting. Still with no guarantees, of course. But compared to D-Day that Larry defined very, very well as Dud Day. And when we have the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States basically telling the whole planet, any of you who does business with Iran or helps Iran, you're going to be expelled from the US dollar system. Cue to the whole planet exploding in laughter and dancing in the streets, just like Martha and the Vandellas during Motown. All around the
Yeah.
world, are you dancing? Are you ready for a brand new thing? Yes, everybody's dancing in the streets, Larry. Yes, we're going out of the US dollar system. And it's the Americans that they are forcing us to do it. How cool is that?
Well, Pepe and Larry, I will disclose this because I was actually allowed to do so. I spoke with the person working in the prime minister's office, tasked with writing this announcement, this particular announcement that I just told you about, but in fact told the entire global audience about, announcing that this deal has taken place. Contemporaneously, I'm told this is the word, contemporaneously, Iran and the United States will take the first step. The sequencing has been agreed upon. Iran will, in a controlled fashion, open the Strait of Hormuz,
Sorry,
while
Zulfiqar, you're saying that the Americans already agreed on the sequencing?
correct. That's what I've been telling you.
We have
I just told you
no,
that. I've just told you that.
okay, but so far we have no evidence about that. Sorry.
I understand you have no evidence, but this is our privileged information coming to me and from me to you and to our global audience, that this is from the man who's writing this announcement. It will be announced by Sharif, not by Asim Munir, and it will be done in the next 24 to 48 hours. That's big news. The man who's drafting this is the man who spoke to me. How more
Okay,
specific can I get?
the only thing I can say is okay, let's wait and see.
Well, of course, we have to wait and see, because we are dealing with a vulgarian who is also stupid and who's also malicious, who's like a 4-year-old.
Well, but it could possibly not happen. And that's my point. I have no doubt that about the reliability of the person that you've talked to. I have no doubt that he said what he genuinely believes. I have no doubt that you're accurately reporting what he said. But I'm also saying he is not inside Donald Trump's mind.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter what Donald Trump has said, because depending upon the moment, we've had Trump take every position around. If you could draw a circle, he's been on every position in that circle, and which means at times the very opposite. So even J.D. Vance has experienced this in the past. Robert Barnes calls it pulling the rug. That just when you think you've reached an agreement, Trump pulls the rug out from under you. And I'm just saying that's where we need to caution this with, while it's optimistic, the likelihood that Trump could still pull the rug is not to be ruled out.
Well, I do not disagree with that assessment, Larry, at all. I respect that. I completely respect that. But I also think that from our point of view, the point of view of this channel, we owe to our audience to report with integrity what we heard.
Yeah.
And that is what we are doing.
Exactly.
We are not adding to it. We're not taking any away from it. In fact, I even disclosed where I got it. I got it from the man who is tasked by Sharif personally to write this announcement. He spoke to me on the phone, with the permission, obviously, of Sharif and everybody else, and Asim Munir and so forth. That this is what I'm writing. This is what we believe is going to take place, and wait for it. 24 to 48 hours is the time frame within which we are going to announce it, with the permission of the Iranian leadership and U.S. leadership, Trump, obviously. So when that happens, we take one more step towards the end of this unwinnable war that has created nothing but catastrophe, but has also created, we must emphasize, a new global order where Iran is now the dominant regional power, and the U.S. is out, and and the petrodollar is on its way down. So it's a very big, significant news, and we are privileged, honored to be trusted with it, and to bring it to the people who subscribe to our channel, and deeply grateful to you and to Larry for analyzing it and giving your perspective on it.
Okay, that's
Sounds
a wrap
good.
for me. Thank you.
Just a reminder to everybody, please hit the like and subscribe button. Please check out the Substack. And Tell your friends about it. You're going to get, we give you the best information and analysis that we can, give you things to think about. And again, as Pepe and Z have said, we'll see how things unfold in the coming days. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much for coming to
Thanks,
our great
everyone.
channel. We
Cheers.
appreciate it. Pepe, go ahead and say the final word, please.
No, no, no. That's it. That's it. I am on a waiting see mode already. Cheers.
Okay, you will be the first to know when that whatever announcement comes out. As you know, I will be honored to receive it, and I will immediately get it to you at whatever time it comes.
Cheers.
And
Okay.
hopefully, it confirms what we just said. So please hit the like and subscribe button. If you like what we do, go to our Substack channel for $5 a month. We will deliver it inside your mailbox twice a week, and that will support us. Thank you very, very much for being our very valued members. Bye bye.